If you invest any money on the stock market long term, you need to understand how to perform fundamental analysis. And effectively, this is the process of understanding an organization, how it ticks, how it makes money, and effectively whether or not the company you're invested in is a good investment. A big part of this is understanding the reports that are issued by a company on a regular basis, one of which is the activities report, and that is what we're going to cover today. How's it going, guys? Ryan here and welcome back to another stock market investing video, and today we are talking about activities reports, and these are reports which are effectively issued on a quarterly and on an annual basis, and they basically tell us exactly what a company has been doing over the past period. But before we get into the details of that, guys, please remember to leave a thumbs up if you do enjoy today's video, and if you want to see more of this sort of content, hit subscribe and turn on those bell notifications. We cover stocks, crypto, investing and wealth management in general. I'd also love to know some tips and tricks that you might have you'd like to share with the rest of the viewers on analyzing activities reports down in the comments section below. But without any further ado, let's get into the meat of today's video. Activities reports are one of the most important and one of the most regular reports that you will see issued by a company, and typically they'll issue them on a quarterly basis as well as on an annual basis, which is a much lengthier document. But the ones we're really focusing on today are those quarterly activities reports, and how do we analyze and understand these. But first of all, what is a quarterly activities report? Well, basically all it is a summary of the past 3 months of what has occurred within the business from an operational point of view in that period of time. So you can understand exactly why this is a very important document for you to review and for you to understand when choosing to invest or to continue to invest in any organization. Before we dive into an activities report example, I want to tell you exactly what we are looking for, and there's 3 key factors that I want you to identify in any activities report that you read. The first one is, have the targets laid out by the company in the time frame set out been met in the last quarter or in the quarterly report. As this is a summary document, it will summarize what has been achieved over the last quarter. Secondly, what is going on from an ongoing operations point of view? So how's the company performing? What are they doing now? What resources are they using? What other projects are they focusing on? And all those sorts of things. Number 3 is future plans, and this is really a timeline point of view. What are the targets that the company is going to meet before the next quarterly report and within the next financial year? These are really the incentives you want to see that are met for an investor prior to investing in an organization. If you have a company which is consistently hitting those targets that they are laying out in a timely manner, and of course in a sufficient and efficient manner, that is when you are onto a good company. So let's take a look at a real life example of a quarterly activities report. The company we've chosen today is Pilbara Minerals, and the reason I've chosen this company is because the way they lay out their quarterly activities report is logical and very easy to understand, which makes it a perfect example. This first page we are looking at right now is effectively the highlights page. Every single quarterly activities report will have their first page as the highlights of what has occurred over the past quarter and what have the achievements or the progress that has been made within this period of time. So basically it is a very easy to understand summary, but it doesn't get into the nitty-gritty details. So the first thing you want to look at though is this, and as you can see laid out on the June 2021 quarterly activities report for Pilbara Minerals, there are a few key areas that they're covering off, and these are also areas they go into detail in within the actual report. So the first one is production and sales. This is the core of an organization. You want to understand exactly what's happening, production, sales. What are the services being provided if it's not necessarily a company that's selling goods or materials? Secondly, project development. What ongoing projects do they have now that they are either developing or are looking to continue from an operational standpoint? So that is very, very important because that's using up right now resources, and it may or may not be achieving an outcome that we're looking for, like a financial outcome, making a profit, generating revenue, all that sort of stuff at this point in time yet. Exploration, and this is something that's quite niche as well when it comes to the mining industry. Obviously, what are you doing in the future? This comes back to the future developments. Exploration is a very important part of a quarterly activities report for a mining or an oil and gas organization, because this is their potential future projects and their future income. They also provide two more sections. The lithium market, this is the market that PLS operates in, so it gives you a bit of an understanding of exactly where the lithium market is sitting in comparison to Pilbara Minerals themselves. And finally, an understanding of what's going on from a corporate perspective. This is just relatively governance related stuff, and you're not going to get too much info out of it, but it's good to understand what's happening within an organization itself, whether it be from a political, governance or management point of view. Now let's get into the meat of this document, and we can see the first section is our operations overview, which consists of things such as production, service provision, sales, all the meat and the key factors and the core competencies that run this business. But one thing that's interesting is you can see straight away we are talking about sustainability, and this is something which is on the minds of many investors these days. Is the company that you're investing in doing the right thing? And in particular, companies looking to become portfolio or blue chip companies will want to talk about their health and safety, sustainability, corporate social responsibilities, and all those sorts of factors. So this is quite an interesting section here. Whilst it doesn't directly impact the business from an operational standpoint, it really does pave the way for them to grow as a recognized corporate socially responsible company. So it's interesting to read, but it's not, I suppose, as important as what's going on in the organization itself. So please review it, but don't put too much focus in this. Another section would be on this next page, your people and culture, what's going on from that perspective. All great stuff, but not to do with what we want to look at and focus on here. And you'll notice throughout the entire document and many documents that are released by organizations, there's a lot of, I suppose, fluff that exists in there, and you really need to dig to get to the key pieces of information. So moving on to 1.2 on this page here, we can see that mining and processing commentary is a key factor. So since the March quarter of 2021, this is where they're reporting for this period, and it's showing the total amount of material that they have mined and produced. And this is effectively what we want to see from a company. We want to see these production levels and targets being met consistently quarter on quarter. So this is the sort of information we really want to focus on. Moving down, you can see that we have a great table which outlines exactly the changes which have occurred over the past few quarters compared to the current quarter itself. It shows what ore has been mined, what waste has been mined, what total material has been mined, what ore has been processed. If we were looking at another company, one for instance which has a product which you subscribe to, what you'd want to be looking for in this section is the number of subscriptions increasing quarter on quarter instead of, the amount of material on quarter. And when we're looking at waste, for instance, we want to see waste reducing quarter on quarter in comparison to the total amount of material mined. Similarly, when we're looking at subscriptions and that sort of thing, we want to see the costs of licensing and costs to maintain, like server costs and that sort of thing, going down, with subscriptions going up at a bit of a higher rate, if that makes sense. This then moves on to the shipments and sales aspects, which is a very important part of this organization. And as you can see here in figure 2, it is beautifully laid out, and you can see each quarter there has been an increased amount of concentrate shipped and effectively sold, which means more money's coming into the organization quarter on quarter. So basically what we're seeing here is consistent growth in this company. Very important, but that's one of the key factors we want to look for. And we also want to see what are the targets which PLS is aiming for. What does Pilbara Minerals want to achieve? How close are they to achieving it? What are their potential future goals? Are there any issues that currently exist which are preventing them from doing so? These are the factors which are going to increase revenues and decrease costs. Now, taking a look at the market commentary section. This is basically a section where the company will explain what is going on within their industry that is directly impacting this organization. So a key part for Pilbara Minerals is pricing. What are people willing to pay for the material which has been produced by Pilbara Minerals? And as you can see, there are two key factors in that second paragraph. We're looking at lithium carbonate prices and lithium hydroxide prices, both of which you can see have increased over the previous quarter. So that is really, really important, because basically that means the margins for Pilbara Minerals actually increase, and that also means other lithium companies have their margins increase as well. Higher margins equal higher profits. So something that's buried in there and is extremely important. So make sure you keep in mind these sorts of things. At the bottom as well, you can see people are talking about a lithium market deficit widening. This is an indication as well we are going to see an increase in demand. There is a shortage of lithium, or potentially for other companies a shortage of a product or any of those sorts of things, which will result in demand increasing, which means a company like Pilbara Minerals can afford to increase their prices. And obviously, as we've seen, the overall market agrees and prices have risen. Moving on to section 3, this is to do with project development. Now this focuses on two sort of key areas. Whilst yes, it focuses on core operations and things that can impact core operations, it also focuses on the future. And the future is very important, because what we want to see is projects consistently developing, hitting their goals and growing over time, providing eventually a return for the investors and the shareholders. So in this example, you can see that they're talking about the restart of a plant, which will be a significant step towards growing spodumene concentrate production at their operations. And that is obviously very important, because that means they have a much higher output of material. And generally what it means as well is they are able to reduce their costs processing things on site. So for Pilbara Minerals, this is a very important point. And when we're looking at any organizations, we want to make sure we're taking a look at exactly what is going on with all their projects across the board. As we move down, you can see there are other plants, other projects also being worked on, also progressing, also being improved, similar sort of things, and the potential for expansion in the near future. All positives when it comes to looking for a company to invest in. The fourth section we're looking at is exploration and geology. This has a heavy focus on the future. What is going to grow and sustain this company in the long term? You want to be looking for things in mining companies which show that they are aiming to expand their either existing resources or locating new resources that they can start building a mine on top of or start producing in order for the business to grow in a sustainable manner. So as you can see right here, we can see that there have been assay results received by Pilbara Minerals which indicate that there is more lithium in the ground where they are currently operating, which is effectively an expansion of their existing project, which could potentially increase the life of this project. And in fact, it is something that will occur based on the information we are seeing here. Now, obviously it's just an overview, but one thing you can do with these pieces of information is go back to the announcements within the quarter, which provide the nitty-gritty detail of exactly what has occurred, exactly the results, and all those sorts of good details. As we also move down, you can see we have a few different figures as well. These are really good to just get, I suppose, a visual representation of exactly what is going on, whether it be from a drilling point of view or, an operations point of view. It's great to see visuals because a lot of people can understand that data that we're seeing up there a lot better through these sorts of mediums. And of course, on the final part of section 4, we can see that there are a few other projects. Very, very brief updates because basically not much has happened with these sort of companies. Now, I suppose what we need to focus on from this perspective is, are these assets that the company is going to maintain and grow potentially one day, or are they potentially assets which they can get a JV to grow one day, or are they going to get rid of them? That is also on the cards as well, because it might not be their core focus, but it might also be taking time, resources, and money away from that main project, which is a key focus. Moving on to the final section of this report, and we're looking at the corporate overview, section 5. And you can see on the first page, something that Pilbara Minerals does, unlike other companies, is that they've got many opportunities currently going on. So the first is a JV opportunity, they've also got a trading platform opportunity, and they have a memorandum of understanding opportunity right there at the bottom. So obviously you can't include these factors in the operational or production sections of the report, but you still want to report on them. You still want to let investors know of the progress because they're important things that could potentially result in the organization growing significantly over time. So really interesting digging into the details of that sort of stuff. And as I say again, there would have been announcements over the period that we are looking at, this quarterly period, which indicate exactly what's going on for each of these different things. So dig into the detail in those documents, but this is a great place to see exactly what type of thing is going on. As we move down now into the financial section, what we can see is sort of a bit of a repeat of what we saw at the top, but there are a few hidden elements which we did not see initially. The first of which is an increase in costs. That is of $58 per dry metric ton compared to the previous quarter, and that was attributed to a number of reasons. So for instance, tightness of suitable vessel supply, coupled with strong shipping demand across all major commodity groups, with the Atlantic Basin continuing to attract vessels, reducing the availability of vessels for Pilbara Minerals to effectively use to ship their ore. Basically what this means is the shipping providers can up their costs, resulting in smaller margins for PLS. So whilst they might be shipping out more money, they're not getting exactly what you'd expect. So just keep those things in the back of your mind. And one of the things to do is really just try and track these sorts of key factors. Understand exactly what are the outgoings, what is the cost to produce a ton of lithium carbonate, and then what is the profit you're making from that. How much money are you bringing in, and what is the profit based on the revenue minus the costs right there. So keep those sorts of little things in mind. As we scroll down to the final section, you can see that we also have a brief overview on the cash balance. You can see we've got some major inflows from customer sales, as well as some major outflows, which are resulting in, obviously operational costs, capital costs, so shipping costs we're talking about, and those sorts of things. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when a quarterly activities report is released, a separate report, which sometimes is combined in the same document, but it'll be at the bottom, the cash flow report. The cash flow statement is also released, which gets into the nitty-gritty information of the financials, and I'll make a different video on that one. But for now, this is a great brief overview of exactly what is going on from a financial perspective within Pilbara Minerals. Towards the end of the document, you will see there's just some basic information about the company itself, and there'll be some appendices at the bottom to support some of the information that has been provided within the quarterly activities report themselves. So when we're looking at the drill results, for example, what we might see is the full drill results being listed meter by meter, grade by grade for each of those meters down in the appendices sections. Now, whilst this is important, it's not something that you really need to focus on. And as well, as I said, same with the financials. If you want to understand the financials of an organization, there is a cash flow report which is separate to the activities report, which you should review as well. That wraps up the video for today, guys. Let me know down in the comments section below if you have any tips and tricks for analyzing activities reports for companies, either before you invest in them or if you want to decide if you should continue to invest in those organizations. And of course, if you did enjoy today's video as well, remember to leave a like and consider subscribing and turning on those bell notifications if you want to see more of this sort of content. We cover stocks, crypto, investing, and wealth management. But I'm going to leave it there for the day, guys. I hope you have an awesome day. I'll see you next time. Cheers.